Hi, hello, welcome to part 2 of my makeup collection series. I'm very slowly going through my whole makeup collection, showing you everything drawer by drawer, little by little, so that we can spend a lot of time talking about everything that I have. And I hope that you're going to enjoy this second part. It's probably going to be a little bit less fun than the first video because we swatched a ton of things in the first video. I don't think we're going to be doing that much swatching in the drawer that we're going to be exploring today because it's more of like a very utilitarian drawer. And then if we have time, I will also show you, I have a little tray here on the side with a bunch of randomness in it. So hopefully we have time to go through that as well before we head to my Alexa drawer. So here we have the drawer that's usually on my right side when I'm doing my makeup together with you. I've tried my best to adjust the camera here so that you can see really well what is going on in here. And we're just going to go bit by bit. Like I said, a very utilitarian drawer, so not a lot of exciting things to swatch in terms of like glitter and sparkle, but let's just quickly go through the contents of that. I currently have two foundations that are not in this drawer and I will explain the reason. So first we have the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation in the shade Deauville. This foundation doesn't reside in the drawer anymore because the packaging is an absolute hot mess, and if I leave it laying in my drawer, it's going to become even messier. It is actually a lovely foundation. It's one of those foundations that looks really natural on the skin. It's not too dewy, it's not too matte, it's not too full coverage, so you can really play around with the intensity that you want on your skin. It is actually a lovely formula, and this is probably one of the best color matches foundation-wise that I have ever had in my collection. But the bottle is a bit of a hot mess, and I can't wait to go through that. I think that you can also very nicely see I'm a little bit under the halfway point, and I hope that in the winter we can continue to have fun together. I can't use this shade now because I'm too dark for that. It's the summer, I've already got a bit of a tan, and after my summer holiday I will not be able to use this foundation for quite a bit of time unless I put something to darken it up. But I don't usually like to mix foundation textures too much, because if I like a foundation for its finish, I don't want to mess around with the finish by adding in another, type of texture to it. Anyway, the other foundation that is currently not in this drawer, sort of for the same reason, is the original Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. I don't want to leave it laying down because it doesn't have a pump, and if I leave it laying down, it again makes a hot little mess. But the foundation itself, I think this may still be one of the best foundations that is offered on the market. I've tried a fair amount of foundations. I'm not the person that tries all the new foundations, so I don't have a really good overview of all the different types of formulas, textures and brands out there. But out of the 10-ish years now that I've been wearing foundation, I think Estee Lauder Double Wear foundations specifically are some of the most top tier foundations that I have ever come across. So Estee Lauder, especially like the Double Wear line, they tend to do this thing where the Double Wear foundation is a staple. They have not changed this, they have not discontinued it. Let's knock on wood that they never do, because like I said, to me this is the most perfect foundation to have ever existed. But also they've released a number of like sheerer versions of this foundation. I've had the light, the sheerer versions. I don't recall the names of any of these anymore, but it doesn't even matter. They've been discontinued. So the original Double Wear foundation has this reputation that it's a very high coverage foundation, and the only result you can ever get out of it is like a full-on face mask. That is not true. That is so far removed from the truth that I don't even know where to begin to tell you how inaccurate that rumor is. This foundation has the most beautiful texture on the skin. It smooths your pores. It looks exceptionally flawless on the skin. You can definitely play around with the coverage if you apply just a little bit of it, and it lasts flawlessly for so many hours. No foundation that I've ever had, I think, has lasted so beautifully on my skin the way this foundation does. I have normal to oily skin, so my skin does tend to oil up quite a bit during the course of the day. So a lot of other foundations, like the NARS Light Reflecting, for example, will begin the first like 6 to 8 hours of its life looking pretty okay, like pretty flawless, and then after a certain amount of hours, my oils are going to break through and they're really going to start breaking down the foundation. So some of these foundations are lovely for like a, medium length work day. But if I ever have to be somewhere where I know that I'm going to wear foundations for 12 plus hours and I don't have time to touch up, I don't have time to look at myself in the mirror, and I want to rely on my base looking flawless the whole day, I will, without second thought, be pulling out for my Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation. I think this foundation's been a little bit forgotten because it's so old and the hype has died down so much, but if it were up to me, I would be hyping up this foundation every other week, just so people don't forget what a fantastic formula this is. And now let's go through the rest of the foundations that are in this part. So this is not just foundations, this is also a bit of like skin tint type of situation. Here I'm first going to pull out the three that you probably can't see all too well. So they live a little bit further in my drawer now because for one reason or the other they're not currently in heavy rotation. First and foremost, we have the Prada Reveal foundation. Mine is in the shade LN5. This is actually a really beautiful foundation. This is the kind of foundation that goes on the skin and you're like, yeah, this looks okay, you know, whatever. But then throughout the course of the day, it starts to melt with your skin and it looks like second skin. I don't know how to explain it. This is a gorgeous formula. It is similar to the NARS Light Reflecting in the sense that it's not dewy or really matte. It stands somewhere in between. I would call it like a demi-matte, very natural looking finish on the skin, but it's the way this foundation wears that truly is phenomenal. I really like it, but right now it is absolutely not the right shade for me because the shade LN5 is a little bit lighter as it is, and right now it would be impossible for me to wear this foundation unless I mixed it in with something. Another foundation that I currently cannot wear for the same reason, it's just too light for me right now, is the MAC Studio Water Weight Foundation. This is in the shade NC25. All of my MAC foundations are in the shade NC25. This foundation is actually a spot-on dupe for a discontinued Estee Lauder Double Wear Sheer Foundation. I don't recall how the foundation was called. Maybe it has something with nude in the name. I'm so sorry, I can't remember. It was discontinued about 2 years ago and I loved that foundation so much. I was absolutely heartbroken that I went on like a whole spree online to find out if someone makes a dupe of this foundation, and as always, Reddit came to my rescue. Someone said that Estee Lauder and MAC make foundations in the same lab, and that this foundation is basically the same if you look at the ingredients, the performance and everything with that Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation. I even have a video where I compare these two. They are indistinguishable from each other, and not only are they indistinguishable from each other, but the packaging of this MAC foundation is actually really luxurious. It's like a frosted glass bottle. It has a dropper. I'm not too crazy about the dropper, but the actual foundation here truly is phenomenal. This is more of like a light to medium coverage foundation. It's not as, you know, full-on duty as the Estee Lauder Double Wear, but it wears really beautifully, especially in the winter when my skin is really dry. This is a beautiful foundation formula. Highly recommend it. Then we've got another shade of my beloved Estee Lauder Double Wear. This one lives in the drawer laying down because my friend who decluttered it to me actually had bought a pump for it. Unfortunately, the pump doesn't seem to work anymore, so I still have to like open the thing in order to get the foundation out. This is in the shade 3N1. I don't know if I mentioned that, but the color that I usually wear in this formula is 2N1. I don't think I mentioned that. And a friend of mine at work some years ago, like quite a few years ago now, had bought the shade 3N1, and 3N1 was just not working out for her, so she gave it to me, and I've been basically using this as my summer shade for the past at least 3 or 4 years. So I've had this for a ridiculously long time, and I use it for a very like short amount of time during the year, but when I do use it, I always fall back in love. I think that's the reason I purchased the 2N1 shade, because my relationship with the Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation traces back to at least like 8 years ago, longer. When I tried this original formula, I fell in love with it. Then they had this like lighter version, which I thought would be better for me. Then they discontinued it, and you know, I've had this foundation in and out of my collection for quite a few years now, but for a few years I didn't have the Estee Lauder Double Wear formula in my regular rotation. I just had it during the summer, and then I used it recently, like I want to say last year or the year before. I used it again after I got back from summer holiday, and I re-fell in love with the formula so much that I decided I need to have this foundation in my collection at all given times. So now I have a summer and a winter shade. This is the only foundation that I have a summer and a winter shade in. And to be fair, I didn't buy this shade, but if I ever run out of it, I am going to go and purchase it. And I've seen now that they actually sell smaller bottles of these Estee Lauder Double Wear foundations. So I might go get a smaller bottle of this when this one finishes at some point in time. This would fit me right now really, really well, and I have to actively stop myself from using it because I've discovered that there are 2 other foundations that we're going to talk about in a bit here that I don't use a lot. One of them I've even considered decluttering several times, but I found use for them now, and I want to get as much use out of them as possible before I go back into this one. I think when I get back from my next summer holiday, I'm just going to use this one exclusively, and especially when I travel, I'm going to take this with me, but for now, I'm just using it every now and then just to, you know, get my Estee Lauder Double Wear kick. Just in general, I don't like to have too many like complexion product type things. So as it is now, I think I have too many foundations. So I'm really trying to go through my foundations as much as possible and have like one that is a bit more heavy duty, like Estee Lauder Double Wear, and something on like the more light medium side, like the NARS Light Reflecting and the Studio Water Weight Foundation from MAC, but I don't want to have multiples of them. Alright, now let's talk about the two foundations that I'm currently using in my routine in attempts to finish them. So, we're talking about the Hourglass Liquid Vanish Foundation in the shade Buff and the MAC Face and Body Foundation, again shade NC25. I bought this 6 years ago, because when I was pregnant, very few foundations looked flattering on me, and then I tried this one, and this is a basically bordering on a skin tint. I use this foundation with my fingers because that's how it applies the best. If you use anything else, the tool that you use is going to soak up a lot of product, because this is the kind of formula that's really liquid and works the best when applied with your fingers. It sort of melts with the skin. The coverage of this is very low, like I said, borderline on a skin tint. But what it does for the skin is that if you want to just cover things up a little bit, you're just in need of a little bit of something. You want your skin to look just a little bit more polished, but without foundation-y, because you're having like a really like low-key day, or your skin cannot take a lot of coverage at the moment. I highly recommend this foundation. This is a staple, but keep in mind the coverage is very low. And then we've got this one, the Liquid Vanish Foundation. I have not had good luck with Hourglass foundations. I had the stick foundation, and that foundation just was like such a Russian roulette when it came to the performance. One day it looked good, and then the day after it looked like an oily mess, and I could never tell you why exactly. So I've tried to use that foundation up as much as possible, but I decluttered it to a friend. And then I kept this one, because this foundation is so weird. This is the most, like, if you thought the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation was high coverage, please go ahead and swatch this one time in store if they still sell it. I don't even know if this foundation is still around. Maybe they've discontinued it. But this is full coverage, okay? You need the tiniest drop of this to cover your whole body. If you ever wanted to go through this foundation, you would have to consider that it would take decades of your life to go through this foundation. So on the one hand, I really like how it looks on the skin once it's on the skin, because it very much performs like the Estee Lauder Double Wear. It clings onto the skin, and the lasting power of this is phenomenal. But if I apply too much, it looks exactly like, you know, a face mask. I don't have the patience in my daily life to dose this foundation. So I had put it on the side, and I had considered decluttering it like so many times. The only reason I had not is because it was so expensive. And then I found out a couple of weeks ago that when I mix these two foundations together, I kind of get the best of both worlds. I dilute this one a little bit, and then this one gets a bit more coverage. So the two together have been making somewhat of a perfect, you know, combination for me, especially now because they're both slightly deeper, so they kind of make a perfect match. So that's the reason I have not been using my usual summer foundation, my Estee Lauder Double Wear, because I've been trying to get as much use as possible out of this. Now, to be fair, the face and body, it will not be difficult to go through, because there's like only a little bit left in here as it is. This one, as soon as I am done playing around with the two of them, will go back in the... Or I might try mixing it with other foundations. To be honest, I might try mixing it with like the Prada or the NARS, just to see how it goes, because there are merits to this foundation. It really extends the lifetime of whatever you're wearing. But actually what's remaining in here are not foundations. So we've got the Chanel Water Fresh Complexion Touch. So Chanel released this updated version, or like the slightly modified version of their original Water Fresh tint. So the difference between these two products really is the amount of coverage. The Water Fresh tint is a skin tint. So both of these, as you can see, are this type of formula where you have these pigment balls which are diluted in water. So when they go on the skin, they feel really, really fresh and cooling because of that very strange reaction that's happening on your skin when you press with a brush or with your fingers to basically burst those pigment balls. So the sensation on the skin is very interesting when you use these products. And like I said, the original touch, this is by the way in the shade this is in the shade Light, and this is in the shade, I want to say B30. Yeah, this is in the shade B30. B30 is actually a little bit darker than my usual skin tone, and this is quite of a light shade. But because the coverage of this is essentially 0.5, like I wouldn't even call it a 1, on a scale of 1 to, I don't know, 10, this has a coverage of 0.5. But at the same time, it really does something for your skin. It may not have a lot of coverage, but once you blend it out on your skin and you let it sit for a little bit, it really provides this like very beautifully smooth canvas without really... It covers just a little bit of your imperfections, but it leaves you very fresh looking. You're not going to get it to do much more than be a skin tint. This one actually has a very flexible amount of coverage. If you apply a little bit more of the pigment balls, you're going to get like a really decent medium to almost like full coverage in my opinion. But when you apply just a little bit less, you can blend it out to be more like a very light to sheer coverage. And both of them look beautiful on the skin. I actually really like the finish of this. It's again that really pretty natural looking foundation on the skin. I love traveling with this, especially if I'm going on a summer holiday or somewhere where I'm not too worried about not being able to check my foundation or to do touch-up throughout the day, because this doesn't have quite the same lasting power as the Estee Lauder Double Wear, but that's also not why I purchased it for. And it also works beautifully as a concealer, so when I travel with this, I don't take a concealer, I just use this all over my face. I really like both of these. And last but not least, the final product that is present in this drawer is also not a foundation, is the Auric Glow Last in the shade Selenite. So I've got a bottle of this already for, I want to say, over 2 years, 3 years. I've had this since it came out. I absolutely love this product as an under eye brightener. I think I'm the only person on the internet who uses this in this particular way, because most people use it either as a highlighter, for which it might be meant for, or as a mixer in foundation to provide them with a bit of glow, or even as like a all over the face type product. Now this is too glowy and too dewy and too hydrating for me to use as an all-over product. Even mixed in with foundation, this would not work for me. It is very nice as a highlighter, but I don't really use it as a highlighter because, like I said, I love using it as an under-eye brightener. It has a lot of really good skincare ingredients, and for someone who suffers from extremely dry skin under their eyes, I almost always need a bit of hydration. Only in the summer months I've noticed I don't really need to hydrate under my eyes as much because my eyes are naturally a bit more hydrated. But in the winter months I use this pretty much daily as almost like part of my skincare routine. It has just a little bit of coverage to it, and maybe that's the only product I want to swatch for you. It provides just a tiny bit of coverage. And it has that like brightness and this undertone which looks really pretty underneath the eyes before I apply concealer. So I really love the Auric Glow Last, but because I use it so sparingly, this huge bottle has been lasting me for such a long time. A little random inhabitant of this part of the drawer here that you also can see is this chamomile sumptuous cleansing butter from the Body Shop, which I keep here because I usually use it when I do lip swatch videos. When I do lip swatch videos, this is one of the best products to use to like remove lipsticks in between, to not dry out your lips, keep them hydrated, but still be able to like thoroughly remove them. So it's not very interesting, it's just something I keep around for practical reasons. Now let's quickly go through this part here, which is my concealers. Again, category of product that I absolutely don't want to have too many of. Let's talk about the newest edition. So this is Sublimage Le Correcteur from Chanel. So this is a like corrector, concealer type product from Chanel, which has an exquisite formula. This is an extremely expensive product. It is 100 euros and it comes in a format like a delivery format that I'm not a huge fan of. I don't like things that I need to dip my finger into. I would have much rather prefer to have something with a doe foot. But because the formula of this is so stellar, I don't mind. This is a gorgeous concealer slash corrector, which does a little bit of indeed correcting because there's a bit of a peach to the undertone. Let me tell you what shade this is. This is in the shade 20. It's slightly too deep when I'm at my palest, but it still works. It's not like I can't make it work. The texture of this, the way it performs, the way it wears, the way it doesn't dry out my under eyes is absolutely phenomenal. I really love it. It was worth every penny, and because of how much product is in here, I'm going to enjoy this for a very long time. But I really like this. If you have the budget for it, and if you struggle with super dry under eyes and you want something that can correct, do something for your texture and wear really well, this may be the one product that you buy and you're going to be happy with. But I want to also say this. There is another product in my concealer collection that I feel like performs rather similarly and is a lot cheaper than this. So let me quickly show that to you. I think I've raved about this concealer for so long that by now all of you who watch my channel on a more regular basis will know how much I love the Dior Forever Skin Correct. And something that I wanted to make a little note about. So I've noticed that based on the packaging that I have of this concealer, I think I have the new formula, you guys. Because I know Dior have been reformulating left and right to be clean, whatever the heck that means. But I've seen people who have the older formula, and I think that has like the big lettering here on the side. Or is it the other way around? Please let me know in the comments below. Is the small lettering here the new formula or the old? Either way, this concealer is also a stellar formula. I have fallen in love with this concealer because it basically does the same as the Chanel Sublimage. Maybe it doesn't have quite the correcting quality of the Chanel Sublimage because of the undertone. I have this in the shade 1N, by the way, but in terms of the hydration, the way it blends out on the skin, the way it wears throughout the day, this is impeccable. I highly recommend this concealer if you have any of the issues that I mentioned earlier. Now, a concealer that I really enjoy, but I need to either mix with something or I need to hydrate underneath my eyes before I use it, is this one, the Lancome Teint Idol Ultra Wear Concealer, and I have mine in the shade 01, which is very funny, and maybe I can just quickly show you what I mean. It's very funny because this being the shade 01 is really, really dark. So this is the shade 01 from Lancome, and this is the shade 01 from Dior. Look at the difference in terms of the depth of their tone. That's just ridiculous. They're also very different textures, by the way. The Lancome, so the Dior Forever has more of that, like that natural to slightly dewy finish on the skin. It's a very creamy formula, whereas the Teint Idol from Lancome has more of like a demi-matte finish. This really dries to more of like a demi-matte finish underneath the eyes, and I either need to mix this with something more hydrating or I need to apply a little bit of the Glow Lust before I go in with this. Otherwise it's going to look a little bit drying underneath my eyes. It has the quality to like sort of like blur underneath your eyes, which is really nice, but at the same time it unfortunately tends to look very drying over the course of the day. So what I've been using with this concealer recently is I've been mixing it with this one here from NYX. So this is the NYX Bear With Me Concealer Serum, and someone recommended this to me a while ago when I was once again heartbroken that a formula that I enjoy for concealer has been discontinued, and because of the struggle to find something that doesn't dry out my under eyes, I was once again at my wit's end, and someone recommended this, and we have a NYX display here in store, and NYX is very easy for me to get on sale. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a try. This is in the shade Vanilla, by the way. This goes on beautifully. It is very hydrating. It looks really nice underneath the eyes, but unfortunately it doesn't wear all too well. Throughout the course of the day, it will sort of like disappear. It shows texture, and I don't like it. So what I've been doing is mixing these two because currently they make a beautiful combo for my under eyes. This one is just too much like my skin tone, and I need a little bit, I like a little bit of brightening underneath my eyes, and when I mix it with this one, I kind of get the best of both worlds. And another combo that I love using in the summer months is these two together. So this concealer is the one that I was heartbroken that it was discontinued. This is the First Aid Beauty Bendy Avocado Concealer. I had two shades of this. I had this in a lighter shade and this shade, which is the shade 3, which unfortunately was a little bit too deep for me. This is a beautiful, very lightweight, very hydrating formula. Now that I've compared it to like these Dior and Chanel concealers, I have to say this one has fallen a little bit out of graces because it's just not as good. But it was one of those really hydrating formulas that didn't look crappy underneath my eyes. So I've kept this shade around even though it is too dark for me because I can use it in the summer months. So what I've been doing in the summer months now, again, is mixing these two together to sort of get the best of both worlds. So I do have a few concealers, but I don't think I have an overwhelming amount, and I do use all of them. So there's no one being neglected in this particular portion of my drawer. Okay, let's move on to this one because this one will be fairly fast to go through. This is a little Inglot palette that I have had for so many years that it's embarrassing to even tell you. These two are powders that I used to use to color my brows. I no longer use them for that purpose, although you can see this one has a huge amount of pan in here because I've used it a lot. For a few years it was the only thing I put through my brows. And what currently I have in my rotation is this shade over here. This is apparently the shade 330, which is essentially a brow bone highlight shade for me. I always like to have like a matte brow bone highlight to blend out whatever is going on in my crease and to like slightly lighten up underneath my brows and to, you know, cover up whatever skin texture there might be, because I have quite a bit of skin texture, I think, on my brow bone. And you can see there is a huge amount of pan in here. I might have to retire this powder soon. And when I retire this powder, I am going to take another one to put in my rotation. So now I can show you one of the random things that are placed in this specific part of the drawer. There's like a little insert in here that has what I call random things. So as soon as this eyeshadow from Inglot is done, I'm going to put this powder. This is from a Korean brand. This was a present from a friend. He bought it for me, obviously, because of the cat illusions. But it is basically a perfect tone to use as a brow bone highlight, and it is a magnificently large eyeshadow, so it will take me years and years and years to go through this. And, you know, buying a brow bone highlight shade is not something I look forward to, so I think I'm covered for a few decades. Then something else, again, that you can't see because it's like hidden in here. You might remember that a couple of years ago I basically rearranged this palette. Some of you might remember this, most of you will probably not, but in 2015 Urban Decay did this collaboration with Gwen Stefani where they released this epic collection, an eyeshadow palette, a blush bronzer highlighter palette, and several lipsticks, and they actually introduced their to be released at the time new Vice lipstick formula. I had a whole lot of that collection, a whole lot, including obviously the eyeshadow palette and the blush highlighter bronzer palette. You will see the eyeshadow palette at some point later because I still have it. These are, to me, items that I love so much because of the nostalgia factor. I was a huge fan of No Doubt as a kid. I love the packaging of this. This is such hefty, luxurious packaging. You have no idea how hefty and well made this feels in the hand. And I know some people are bothered by like the little circles in here. I personally think that the aesthetic of this collection was flawless, and I love having these pieces even if I don't use them at much. But a while ago I thought, I don't ever use the powders in here. Why don't I just take them out and repress powders in here that I do actually use? So what happened is that I took some of my ABH glow kits. I had several glow kits from Anastasia Beverly Hills that I loved. And I decided to keep my favorite shades, so that's why these two pans are empty, because I literally kept the 4 shades that I have enjoyed and loved the most. These come from the Aurora and the Dream glow kit, and I don't know the shade names of any of these. I just know that I repress them in here and I occasionally will use them these days mostly as inner corner highlights or as toppers, because they're also quite sparkly and I just think they're really pretty. I don't want to get rid of them. Let me quickly swatch them for you. They have just beautiful like duochromy effects, a metallic formula, a metallic finish. They're really pretty. I just can't get rid of them, and I think they're beautifully housed in here, so I get sort of like win-win kind of situation. I get to keep this packaging and still use it for something, even if it may not be something that I use on the daily. I'm going in a very strange direction here. Instead of going like this, I'm sort of doing like a little circle around my drawer. So let's then quickly talk about the random thing that you can see. So the little insert where you already saw the little powder. And another thing that I'm still keeping here for if I ever need it is the only other brow product, like powder brow product, that I still have. This is the shade Ebony from ABH. Very heavily used, as you can see. I'll keep it around because sometimes I want to put a powder through my eyebrows, and yeah, this is just handy to have. Then I have these two little samples that I'm keeping from Shiseido and from Clarins that may or may not ever get used, we shall see. And then I've got the stupid eye gloss from Pat McGrath Labs, which reminds me that when we were going through my other drawer, I completely and utterly forgot to show you one of the eyeshadows that was housed in there. This eyeshadow, this is one of the pigments that came in those kits. This is the ultraviolet blue pressed pigment. And you can hear Nicola in the background because he's around. We have a day off here. Anyway, so when I thought about the eye gloss, Libert, mensen kunnen jou niet zien. Let me quickly show you the eyeshadow because it is an absolutely glorious color. It is so pretty. Look at this gorgeous purple shade. The one gripe I have with this eyeshadow is it stains the eyelids. So whenever I use this, wherever I have put it, I will remove it, and after that I will have pink left behind. So that is my only gripe with this eyeshadow. I really like it, but I have to be very strategic when I use it. But in that kit, and I want to say in another kit, and I can't remember, maybe it was the Ultra Suede Brown. For whatever reason, I had two of these. So this is the Pat McGrath Labs Cyber Clear Eye Gloss. I've never touched this. I've never used it. The only reason I'm keeping it is because I literally can't think of anyone to declutter it to. One of you actually took one of these off of my hands because you mentioned that you're actually enjoying it, so I already sent one of these to one of you. If anyone else is interested, please let me know. I would gladly send this your way without any charges incurred. Gorgeous. But when on earth am I, the regular Joe, going to be using an eye gloss? I don't do editorial looks, I don't do Instagram looks, and this is really the only thing you can use this for. If you are going to, you know, take a picture for 10 minutes on Instagram and then remove the makeup, because obviously something like this is not going to stay on your eyelids. It's just going to feel super uncomfortable and sticky and tacky. So, you know, I keep the eye gloss because I don't really know what to do with it. I don't want to toss it. And I can't think of a single person in my life who would like to use it. And so, now let's quickly talk about this part of my drawer where I don't think I'm going to swatch too many things. I'm just going to show you what I have. We have eye sharpeners, like lip and eye pencil sharpeners, and I like to keep my lip and eye sharpeners apart from each other because I don't want lip and eye things to mix together. So these are my sharpeners from ABH and Essence. I actually really like the one from ABH. I think it's really good quality. I want to say this was like a gift with purchase with something. And then let's go through my eye pencil collection. That's rather random. We've got a bunch of these like teeny tiny leftovers of the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide pencils. I've got the shades Muse, which is a really teeny tiny brown, and you can see I'm such a Scrooge. I refuse to toss these unless I have used them all the way up until here or something. So, and I think these are solid pencils. They are really good pigmentation. They stay in the waterline really well. They're just really solid pencils. That's why I don't want to get rid of them. This is the shade Accuse, which is a beautiful like midnight sparkly brown. Then we have the shade Delirious, which is a gorgeous purple. And then we've got two of my favorites. I think this is one of the tiniest. This is the shade Rockstar, which is a absolutely gorgeous, like plummy purple. And of course, the olive green. This is the shade Zodiac. I keep these around because even though they're tiny, I still actually use them all the time. Then let me show you the few eye pencils that I have from Lisa Eldridge. So I've got the shades in Ground Coffee, which is my latest purchase. This is a very, very useful dark brown. I've got the shade Renaissance Gold, which I think is one of the most unique shades in her collection. It is essentially the same thing as her Titania liquid eyeshadow that we swatched in my previous video. These are a really soft formula that allows it, they're very creamy, they're extremely pigmented. Maybe I can just quickly swatch one. Like, I'm barely gonna touch my skin now. Look at the amount of pigment that came off. They're really soft and creamy, and they allow you quite a bit of time to work around if you want to like blend them out. I usually use them as a liner on my upper lids, smudged out, or in my waterline. Now, because they're so creamy, they might not stay very well on your lids if you have very oily lids. But I feel like, you know, for the purposes that I've been using it, they've been pretty okay. Then we've got the shade Night Forest, which is the beautiful forest green. And finally, we have one of my favorites. This is Burnt Umber. Burnt Umber is more like this like warmer, slightly lighter in tone brown shade. I use this one a lot. You can actually see which one has been used the most because it is the tiniest. I love Burnt Umber, it's my favorite. The thing with these is they're really expensive, and I think I will go through them fairly quickly because of how creamy and soft they are. Let me put these here on the side. Let me show you a few random ones. So I have these two here from ColourPop. Does anyone remember these? I've got the shade Punch, which is a really fun yellow. These are actually really good. Oh crap. They are very good though. They are really, especially very long lasting, I find, in your waterline. And I also have the shade Prance, and I think this one is my favorite. This in your waterline is like a light cornflower blue. This in your waterline looks absolutely amazing. But I don't know if they make these. I think these might be like long gone and discontinued. But I love these two shades and I keep them around because I actually still use them. I did actually declutter my pencils last year, so everything that is in here is stuff that I still actively use. Then we have this shade here, which is the shade Royal Blue, which is a gorgeous royal blue. So if I have a need for a royal blue pencil, I can choose for that one. Something really old that a friend of mine sent to me a very long time ago. This is LOCX Tati, and this is like one of those like thick pencil, like chunky pencil things. I love this. This is like a light champagne gold, and it stays like nobody's business in the waterline. I have no idea what this brand is. We're talking about Tati, you know, in the years of 2015, 2016, in like the height of her YouTube career. Now she has fallen quite a bit out of graces. I personally don't watch Tati already for several years, but this is a phenomenal product. And I keep it around because I still use it, and I would actually be sad when it's gone because it's a beautiful tone. It's not too light, so it doesn't make you look strange when you put it in your waterline. It brightens up and it stays like nobody's business. Then we have this chunky little thing here. It's again one of those like thick pencil things from a brand called Hema. Hema is a local brand. I really love the color of this. I really love these like turquoise blues in the waterline, especially in the summer with like a nice bronzy eye. Beautiful. Then one of the classics here is this jumbo eye pencil. No, jumbo eye. Yeah, the jumbo eye pencil from NYX. This one is in the shade Rocky Mountain Green, which obviously I have still because it is a gorgeous green. I am, however, struggling to sharpen this, so I don't know how much patience I will have to keep this if I cannot sharpen it. This one I've considered decluttering several times. This is the Essence Big Bright Eyes. So this is something that people will usually use to brighten up their waterline. I find colors like this to look really strange in my waterline, so I don't really use it for that purpose, or very rarely. I will use it as a base sometimes to put another, like a light eyeshadow in there, so that the eyeshadow can stick to something. Like if I'm doing a very light green or a light purple and I want to put the eyeshadow in my waterline, I will put this as a base, or in my inner corners as a base for whatever eyeshadow I'm putting there, because the tech really helps with the eyeshadows to stick better. Speaking of Essence, I've got a ton of eyeliners here from Essence, the twist up ones, and I actually really like them. I think these are inexpensive and they're just really, really good. Depends on what you want to use them for. If you want to use them for smudging on your lashes to, you know, a little bit, to do a little bit of like a smoky lash line moment, these are not the best, as they're a little bit too hard for that. But if you want to put them on your waterline, they are amazing. I love them for that. This shade in particular, this is the shade, what is this called? Hot Chocolate. This is the shade Hot Chocolate. I've repurchased this probably 4 or 5 times and I have 2 or 3 backups in my drawers. This is my favorite pencil to put in my upper waterline to give my lashes a bit more thickness and definition, and I also like to use this in my waterline. These are actually really nice. I highly recommend them. I've got a bunch of shades here. This is another one that I've repurchased a lot. This is in the shade Have a Green. Gosh, I said I wasn't going to swatch things and here we are swatching a bunch of things. This is a really pretty shade. I like this turquoise one. This one, which might have originally been a lip liner, but I actually really like, yeah, this is actually a lip liner, but I've repurposed it as a waterline kind of shade because it is, look at this beautiful like mahogany brown. Gorgeous. Then we've got a silver, like a bronzy gold, again, a really beautiful like undertone of bronzy gold that doesn't look too stark or too unflattering in your waterline. And then we've got this one, which is like a berry shade, and this is one of my newest ones, a gorgeous, like, look at this olive green. These are beautiful and they're so inexpensive. I love them. Then we've got one, oh, this probably came in one of those kits. This is Extreme Black. This is like one of the pencil liners from the classic pencil liners from Pat McGrath Labs. It's a black. It's really good. It's very creamy. It's essentially like the Lisa Eldridge ones, but I don't really use black all that often. So I do use it on occasion, but not too often. Then, oh yeah, we've got another one here from Essence in the shade, this is like a grayish purple. It's a very interesting shade. I really like the shade of this. Essence also makes really sick colors with these pencil liners. I really like these. Then we've got this one from Neve Cosmetics, which was actually a present from my friend Mia, who doesn't really make videos anymore. I don't know what happened with Mia. But this is a beautiful smoky purple, so I keep that one because I use it a lot. And then we've got two here from MAC that are a green and an orange. This is a really fun green, and this is a really fun orange pop. So this part of the insert is dedicated to my lip liners. I've also got two of these sharpeners that I received with the, oh my god, what were these called again? The Sculpt and Shade lip liners from Lisa Eldridge. Okay, let me tell you, up until last year, I refused to pay more than €1 for lip liners. So all of my lip liners were basically these from Essence. So these like wooden ones that you have to sharpen from Essence. I still have a few colors of these because they're quite unique in terms of colors, some of them. But I refused to pay more than whatever these cost. And then last year, I think I went on a spree and I decided that I'm going to get matching liners for all of my Lisa Eldridge lipsticks, and I'm finally going to try a more high-end, you know, lip liner formula. So I bought a bunch of Lisa Eldridge. This one I think is from Kiko and was present from a friend. This is a random MAC one in the shade Current. I bought this, I think, to match a lipstick that I have. And to be honest with you, I don't think this is the greatest lip liner I've ever tried. I mean, it's really nice, but it was quite expensive and I don't find it to be all that spectacular. Maybe it's the shade though, I don't know. We also have my handy Prep and Prime lip primer from MAC. This is the best lip primer I've ever tried, and I know some people don't believe in lip primer, but F off. I believe in lip primer. This does miracles for, you know, colors not bleeding too much outside of my lip lines, for giving like this very nice smoothness to my lips before I apply lipsticks. I love my MAC Prep and Prime lip primer. I've had this. This is a staple in my collection already for probably over 5 years now. And then we've got a couple of random ones hiding in here. I think another one from Essence. Yeah, some more from Essence, and this one from Urban Decay in the shade Big Bang. This is like a hot pink with glitter. And it works with some of my like summer lipsticks. That's why I've kept it around, and it's a really like fun shade, but it's not one that I use a lot. The ones that I use a lot are obviously my Lisa Eldridge ones. I've got a very extensive collection because I basically bought whatever lipstick I had to match with it. Now, sorry, I still have some random Essence ones here. The ones that I use the most are Ribbon, obviously, the classic Ribbon, because I love the lipstick, and I also use this with other red lipsticks that I have in my collection. And the shade Muse, because Muse is like the most like nude light color in my lip liner collection. So I use this one a lot, not only with Muse, the lipstick from Lisa Eldridge, but a variety of other lipsticks from other brands. Then I've got Cinnabar to match my Cinnabar lipstick. I have the shade Duchess, Decade, which I got a backup for now that the actual like lipstick and lip liner are being discontinued, because I'm going to have the lipstick for a really long time, and I use the shade Decade, the lip liner, also with other lipsticks a lot, because it is this beautiful neutral like deeper brown, chocolate brown, so I cannot be without my Decade lip liner. I bought a backup of this. Another one I got a backup for is the shade Bloom, because it's another one that was being discontinued, both lip liner and lipstick, and I think I'm going to have the lipstick for longer than this is going to last, and I want to have a matching lip liner, so I have this one. I've got Blush, gorgeous, I love the lipstick. Also Rain, what is this? Enchantment and Sorcery. And I also have two of her new Shade and Sculpt lip pencils in the shades 1N and 1W. And I wanted to just say one quick thing about the formula of these versus the original liners. What I love about these is the colors. I wish she had colors like this in her regular formula, because her regular formula is very long-lasting. It just basically doesn't really come off. It comes off if you have something very emollient like a lip gloss or a creamy lipstick, but the outlines of your lips always stay put quite well, whereas these guys come off quite easily, the new Shade and Sculpt. So I love the colors of these, but I wish they were in the other formula. And yes, I do think that having Lisa Eldridge lip liners is a step up from having Essence lip liners. With that said, I think there are a lot of like affordable solid lip liner formulas on the market, so you don't have to go out of your way to get Lisa Eldridge liners. I did because I have a lot of her lipsticks, and I don't want to fuck around trying to match the color of the lip liner to the lipstick. It's just much easier to have the matching lip liner. And I've gotten really bougie, let's face it. And last but not least, the last part of this drawer that you have not seen yet is another one that's filled with all sorts of randomness. The battery of my camera died, so I'm really hoping that you didn't miss much. We're here in the very last portion of this little insert where there's again a lot of randomness. We got tweezers to take care of stray little eyebrow hairs. We've got my Too Faced Fluff and Hold laminating brow wax. This is literally the only product that I've been using through my brows for the past year, because I have fairly dark, long hair, you know, bushy brows, and I like the laminated brow effect. So this is the only thing that I've been using through my brows. Before that, my absolute favorite was the Brow Artist Plumper from L'Oreal, which is essentially a similar product, but it is tinted. And I love the little teeny tiny brush that this has and the bit of color that it gives. So I will use this one occasionally as well. This was my favorite before the Too Faced one. In order to brush out any excess product from this one, I use this tiny brush that I have saved from actually a previous version of this one. Once upon a time this used to come in a bigger packaging, and this was the brush that it came with, and I cleaned it off and I saved it, and it's been really handy to have. We've got, of course, my beloved NYX glitter glue that I use pretty much daily. My eyeshadow primer, this is the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion that I'm currently using. Then we have a little spoolie here to brush off, you know, any excess mascara when I'm doing my lashes. And finally we have a little Evermatte Poreless Priming Perfector from Becca. This is pretty much almost finished, but I do use it occasionally if I want to really fill in my pores. But I don't really use like primers, like makeup primers already for many years, so I've been really struggling to get through this one. But the other thing that this works really well for because I have a full size of this at work. What you can do with this is you can like smoosh it on your fingers throughout the day when you start to get oily, and then like dab it. You can't see it, but now I'm dabbing on my face, and dab this onto your face where your skin has gotten oily, and it immediately soaks up the oil. It's amazing. You don't have to use a powder, you just use a little bit of this to take care of your oiliness. Alright you guys, I think I'm too tired to go through the randomness that's in my little tray here, so we are going to tackle that on a different day. Thank you so much for joining me for part 2 of my makeup collection series. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Yeah, and I will see you in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!